Okay, I have got one of my lovely, amazing friends with me. Emily Giuffré is how you say her last name. And Emily does a lot of things in the industry. She is in the Powerhouse Sisterhood Suite, and she's just an amazing human that you should get to know. She's at Texas. Actually, I was going to ask you, Emily, where you're from, but um, we're going to get started. So, Emily, first question, if you want to be more detailed than I was, where do you live?
I live in a small town called Belleville, Texas, which is the county seat of the oldest county in Texas. It's halfway between Austin and Houston.
Okay, love it. Awesome. And then before we jump into your whole acting career industry stuff, what is your favorite joke?
My favorite joke?
Yeah.
My favorite joke. Uh, oh, probably some really cheesy dad joke. I've heard so many of them, but
You
uh
said something about an MRI or something.
yes, it was my nieces came up to me because they got a joke book from for Christmas and they're like, "Did you know that dogs can't operate an MRI machine, but cats can?"
That's funny.
It's just like, yeah, the cornier the better.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. Okay, so what all do you do in the film industry?
I'm an actor, writer, director, and by default producer. I think that's just sort of a thing we all happen to fall into. I don't think any one of us plans on being a producer, but because we want to make things and we want to stay active in the industry, we want to make things happen. It's just sort of inevitable that we all become a producer part of the time.
That's true. Okay, so of those, which one is your favorite and which one is your least favorite?
Well, I've started off as an actor, and that will always be my first love.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't say that I love writing. I'm compelled to write, but I don't love writing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Good to know. Okay, so for acting, because this series show is to help actors who are on their way to getting into the acting industry and stepping into that whole field, whether they're brand new or kind of seasoned. But when did you officially start your acting journey?
For me, I would say it was age 18 in college and started off in theater. And I continued to do theater once I graduated from college. Uh, Now, if you want to count the times my siblings and cousins and I wrote and directed films that we did as kids with my dad's old camcorder, uh, and when we did actually start doing those short movies, we actually because we didn't have an editing software
Yeah.
and all we could do was actually record on the camera. We didn't know what else to do. We had to do every shot perfect once. So we
Oh,
put a lot of pressure on ourselves to create a movie that we could not edit. So every time we recorded a scene, it had to be done perfectly and it could only be done once.
so did y'all do
So
rehearsals for yourselves?
we would do plenty of rehearsals before we hit record, but the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves, I have to remind myself sometimes when we're filming, hey, it's okay. We can do this again if it fails. No pressure.
Yes.
But I continued to do theater once I graduated from college, but I'd always wanted to do film. Film is where I had wanted to go since I was a small child. So I actually there was a particular Kinko's I used to go to print off headshots because all the theaters wanted physical copies. And I remember there was a guy that worked there who he saw these pictures and he was like, "Oh, are you an actress?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm a filmmaker, so let me have one. So, could I so I can keep you on file?" It's like, "Okay." And then this must have been a year later. I was auditioning for like a dozen theater companies in Houston. So I was going to one great big audition and I was printing all these copies. And this guy, I totally forgot about him, but he came up to me and he saw all these pictures and he's like, "Are you an actress?" I was like, "Yes." He says, "I'm auditioning for a film right now." And at first I thought, okay, creepy. He's a serial killer. It's like, I don't know. But then I was like, oh, wait, yeah, it's this guy. He works here. And they were Kinko's were letting him actually audition in one of the offices there. And so I did audition for them and I started to read the script when I realized this was not a story I wanted to be a part of. He called himself a director of the genre of Christian horror, which those two things really don't go together. And not that there was anything particularly wrong with anything in the movie, but just the story itself. Spoiler, I don't know if I want to sing it out there, but his main character ends up killing his father, who became a vampire and all of that. And it wasn't out of self-defense. It was a meditated, oh, well, he's evil now, and he kills his father. And it just didn't sit right with me. And I was trying to wrap my head around, should I do it? Should I not do it? Because he had offered me the part of the female lead. And my mom had said, well, the way you're feeling should tell you right now.
Hmm.
You're anxious. You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Most of the time I see you excited that you got cast in something. You're jumping at the bit to do it, and you're all anxious and not feeling good about it. That should be your answer. So I declined the role and never felt bad about it
Right.
because it was a good lesson in not being desperate to be in the industry. I
Right.
mean, we all want, as actors, we all want to act. We want to be active in the industry, but we can't put it on a pedestal above everything else,
Right.
especially if our conscience is just not sitting well with it.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, is I feel like Satan kind of knows how to get us to compromise in little ways. And that would have been like not necessarily anything sexually compromising, but it would have compromised a piece of your soul that you didn't feel you wanted to do. But at the same time, it's the lead role, and I can tell others that I got the lead role. And it's like that whole weighing of back and forth and what feels right. What do you want to do? What do you not want to do? So that's awesome that you turned it down. Okay, so for someone listening and they're like, oh my gosh, she turned down a role. How did you turn it down? You said you declined it, but how?
Well, I mean, I just tried to read the script a few times. It wasn't it was a short film, and uh or I should say shorter. It wasn't technically a short film category. It was with over 40 minutes, but I just kept reading over it because I was trying to find the redemption in it, right? It's
Yeah.
like this guy said he was a Christian, and it kind of came down to that. And I was like, telling him, it's like, I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. He tried to reassure me, oh no, it's there. It's like, but where is it? It's like this guy ends up killing his father because he's become a vampire, so he's evil, so he's taking out this evil, but this guy's his father,
Mhm.
and kind of ends up back in the same situation that he starts the film in, which is a very depressing place. It's
Mhm.
like, where is the light? Where is the redemption? I'm just not seeing it.
Mhm.
So it pretty much, after a couple of conversations with that, I just had to tell him thank you, but no.
Yeah.
And he said thank you, and that was that. So it
Okay. Well, there we go.
yeah, so it I wouldn't say that was a big deal about it. He wasn't anywhere near to filming it, so he had some time, I guess, to reconsider. But I never felt bad about it.
Yeah.
I just felt bad. I got a taste of, I felt what was to come, is that
Mm.
there would be roles and stories that I would just turn down just because they just didn't sit right with me.
Mhm. Good. I'm so glad you listened to that little nudge that you had. As I've been in one of those too, where someone, it was like a Christian filmmaker and offered, I think it was the lead role, and I read through it and I just remember it was like three demons battling something, and it was just like again, I was trying to read it, finding the redemptive part, like, okay, where's Jesus come in? Where's the hope in this? And it was just mostly about demons. And I was like, well, yeah, it's kind of like I understand that they are a part of like the spiritual world, but it just doesn't, it just can't. I just can't. So I hear you. Okay, so what is one of the first steps that you took in your acting journey as far as film goes to kind of get you started and on the right path?
I had been away from acting for a while, and uh, well, like in theater though, when I was still very, very active in theater, just any audition I heard about. I remember going into downtown Houston quite a bit for all the auditions at, the major theater companies there, um, and worked some in some smaller theaters. And then when it came to film, I honestly was kind of overwhelmed. It was a slightly different animal. And it's like, where do I even go to audition for film? How do I even hear about auditions? Because there were things being made all around me. It's just like, well, I would always hear about it after the fact. It's like, how do I learn about it before it happens? And I had heard about Actors Access. I mean, this is, a real newbie coming into film. It's like, where do I even go? So, what I started to do was go on to some Facebook groups for Austin filmmaking, Dallas filmmaking, Houston filmmaking. And I had learned that, to get on a set, you know, just to get on a set, volunteer to work as a production assistant, not the entire time, a day or two, three at most. I would usually do two because I live far away from all those places.
Yeah.
But if I saw a post of someone saying, hey, I need someone to do craft services, or we're looking for a DP, I would message that person and say, hey, I'm not a DB of craft services, but do you need an extra production assistant? And usually they're like, yes, please, we need all the production assistants. So I got on quite a few different sets working as a PA, and I would volunteer a day or two. And usually my last day I'm leaving and they're like, do you really have to go? Could you stay maybe a day longer? And usually they would end up paying me because they felt that I'd just done too much to not give me something, especially after they learned how far away I'd driven to come there.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I would hear about some auditions in these different groups. So I started auditioning, got, booked a couple of roles. And then a lot of these people started seeing me. Oh, you're an actress as well. Uh, so that's kind of how it all got started. And then I started to actually wanted to do a couple of my own productions, and that took up more of my time. So when you're also a writer and a director and a producer and you're making your own stuff, sometimes that takes away from all the other auditions that you could be working on. But that's definitely how I started when
Yeah.
in when I decided to commit to the film industry.
Yeah, I love that. I love when people share like the practical things that they did. Like the Facebook group, the PA, they said crafty. I reached out for PA. I did just a couple of days instead of the whole, like everything that you said is something practical that people can be like, okay, I can follow the steps that she just spoke about. So thank you for
Oh, you're welcome. And when someone said, well, you just volunteered to be a production assistant, go on Facebook, I was like, I can do that. They were
yeah,
like, yes, they'll not let you leave. And that turned out to be the case. I've become have made so many friends with people that way,
yeah.
and have come back to work on their projects because we built that relationship on set.
Yes, so good. Okay, what is one of the biggest struggles that you've had as an actor up to this point?
I guess personally for me, it's finding roles that I'm interested in playing, uh, or finding roles that I feel that are my type.
Yeah.
And I personally think I look, like an average American. A lot of people tell me, no, you look like you're from Europe. It's like, what? I'm from Texas. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I've had people think that I was European or I was South American. And I don't know if that has anything to do with not getting roles, but that's why I usually put when they ask for like characteristics, I will put Mediterranean because I definitely have a very Roman profile. And but being an American, I mean, I would have no problem trying to learn an accent and playing roles with an accent, uh but I'd say for the most part, it's just finding roles that I'm interested in playing that when I was in theater, I was a character actor. I wouldn't turn away any role. I played all different kinds of roles. I played the crazy old ladies. I've played the trickster Puck from, Midsummer Night's Dream. I played uh, you know, in theater, you're kind of used to playing all different kinds of things, but in film, I've tried to be more focused on the types that
Mhm.
I play.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's been the biggest challenge. Uh, but it requires me to be more focused and more intentional about where I'm looking for the auditions.
Yeah. Cool. What are you, or like, what are some of the tools, resources, websites, groups, trainings? Like, what are some things that you have done that have helped to build your career?
Hmm. Well, besides the Powerhouse Sisterhood Suite, I mean, which is a great resource of minds and experience. For me, it's also more importantly, it's all the friendships that I've made with all of you.
Mhm.
And just having that sort of mind hive with all those women has been incredibly helpful. Like if I was before I joined the Powerhouse uh Sisterhood Suite, I felt pretty lost and pretty depressed. And it was through another sister of ours, Alicia, who was like, you need to be part of this group. And I'm eternally grateful to her for that because I feel like I have more direction with all of you. And I am part of another group, sort of a multi hyphenate producers group. And um, I have, just been, I wouldn't say it's not necessarily a training group. We're just more, again, it's sort of
Yeah, yeah,
a,
anything
yeah,
that builds your.
personal coaching from our head coach on reaching out to industry people through IMDb, getting their emails there, sending them updates on my projects that I'm working on, and writing pitch decks and trying to level up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it would be being a part of these two groups, especially the Powerhouse Sisterhood Suite. And then, I mean, going to the events as well. The amount of events that we've been to together have been very, very helpful in meeting people and learning about other projects that you may not have known otherwise. Uh, and of course, just the volunteering. It's been a while since I volunteered to go work on a set, but when I do, I meet a lot of new people. I learn a lot of new things. So it's more been real hands-on stuff that I've learned from these groups, the events, and working on set.
Yeah, good. So being a Christian in the film industry, is there anything that you will do or won't do because of your faith?
Oh, there's a ton I won't do. it's it's more a matter of where can I find projects that I want to be a part of.
Mhm.
I'm sure know when you're going through Actors Access, there's just a ton that you're just skipping over because, they might give you a little breakdown of the project and you already know, no thanks, no thanks. So, uh, yeah, there's a, there's quite a bit. Uh, a film has to have, certain criteria for me. It has to project truth. It has to be God honoring. It has to be uh well, it has to be quality as well, So obviously sex, nudity, profusive language,
Mhm.
uh that's all just a big no for me.
Mhm.
When it comes to violence, it would depend simply because I really like war movies. Hacksaw Ridge is one of my favorite
Oh,
war
yeah,
movies.
yeah.
But of course the context of the violence matters. If it's a World War II film, it's going to be violent.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's quite a bit. But I mean, there's so many beautiful movies about hard subjects that are perfectly God honoring
Mhm.
and something that you could show your teenagers. So therein lies a challenge, just finding those gems out there with all of that muck. Finding, going, it's like digging for gold, in the muddy water. And you're just sifting through trying to find that gold.
Yes, I remember, well, there was one day, but this happens often where I either get the email from Actors Access or I'm just going scrolling on Actors Access and it's like murder on the bayou and killer wife and whatever. It's just like all these negative, dark, ugly things. And I'm like, no, 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 like that, none of them. Oh, I hear you, totally hear
Yeah.
you. Okay, so how do you practically build your relationship with Jesus as you're pursuing acting? Like, how do you get your Bible time in? How do you do your reading, all of that stuff?
Just like I don't want to say just like with everything else. It has to come first. You have to make him a priority. Uh, Whether, for some people that's morning time, for some people that's nighttime. Uh, just because, for a lot of people, morning time is just too crazy. Uh, so just have sometimes there are just days where I have to pull myself away for 15, 30 minutes and don't have my phone. I don't talk with anyone. And I just sit, and most of the time it's just talking with him. It's not even reading. If I'm having a particularly stressful day and I can't focus on what I'm reading, it's just talking with him. And it has to be a priority. I'm not saying it's perfect, especially for, those of us, a lot of us, we're in the industry, but we also have other jobs,
Mhm.
and working all of that around, it can get chaotic at times. So within the chaos, though, it's, always trying to make him, striving to make him the priority, and asking him, what would you like me to do this year? What would you like me to focus on this summer? What path am I supposed to go in this industry? It's, of course, I have all my intentions that I'm asking for, but I need to start with, what is it that you want me to do?
Yeah.
Because even though I do love the industry and I love being in it, but I want to do what he wants me to do.
Mhm.
So, uh, yeah, just like with everything else, it's, and this, Venus, just when we get very busy, I hate to say that sometimes prayer time and all of that becomes a back burner. And I never want that to be the case. If I have to get up extra early and pray, or I have to stay up later and pray, and just, it's just spending time with him. It's where you shut off the rest of the world and you focus only on him. It's a very sacred time. And I have tried to make Sundays where I don't, it's like, I'm not going to work on Sundays. I'm not going to. Sometimes it happens with film,
Yeah.
but a good part of that day also has to be about him, but it can't be focused on uh, getting stuff done at the house or all of that. So I think it's, especially for, I mean, I don't have kids. For people who have children, that's probably a little bit more of a challenge, but I think he's very pleased when we shut out the rest of the world and we just focus on him, and let's try to listen to him
Yeah.
on what it is he wants for us.
100%.
So yeah, it's a never ending, I don't want to say struggle, not a struggle. It's a never ending pursuit of him. So
Mhm.
we have to find that time. Time and money are always looking for a place to go. So you always have to be very intentional about where it goes.
Yes, so true. Okay, so before we tell people where to find you online, well, also I have another question, but what's your favorite book or favorite quote? Or both?
Favorite book. I think I uh wrote this down somewhere. And if it's different, I'm so sorry. But I mean, my favorite book, my favorite quote ever, my
Yeah.
favorite quote ever is from The Fellowship of the Ring, the first book in the Lord of the Rings. And it's a response Gandalf says to Frodo when he says, I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had ever happened. And Gandalf says, well, so does everybody from every time period wish this didn't happen or that didn't happen. All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given you. I remember the first time I heard that, it was like, it sounds so simple, but it's so true. We only have so much time, but we get
Yeah.
to decide what we're going to do with that time. Favorite
Yeah.
quote ever. Best
Okay,
quote ever.
say it one more time. We just have to decide.
All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so for somebody who is starting their acting journey and she's not sure how to really get started, where to look, what to do, what to focus on, what advice do you have for her?
First, I'd say you need a support group.
Mm,
So join the Powerhouse Sisterhood Suite.
mhm,
Secondly, get your materials as fast as you can, the headshots, a reel of some kind. If you need to, you know, do it on your phone with a friend, so be it. Just have good lighting and good sound.
mhm,
Uh, Start auditioning and put yourself up on Actors Access, join Facebook groups, and work on, if you have to volunteer as a PA, do it for a day or two and
mhm,
do several within a short amount of time. You're going to meet a lot of people very quickly. You're going
mhm,
to make friends with people very quickly. And because other people that may not be the director on that project, but they could be the DP, they could be the first AC, they have projects they might want to use you for. So I would say get started that way. Things start moving very quickly when you're on set and you're meeting a bunch of people. So I would say if you're just starting out, start with that and it kind of takes you from there.
That's good. Okay, where can I find you online?
Well, Facebook mainly. My handle is my last name, then my first name Giuffre, and Emily for my first name.
Cool.
And it's the same on Instagram as well.
Okay, love it. All right, you're awesome, Emily. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and your history and all of your stuff with the audience.
You are awesome, Venus. Thank you.
Okay, bye.